Waleed. Great to connect with you again.
Hey Neelam, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I'm so glad we're able to do this so soon after the first video that we did. I really enjoyed that first sort of introduction to our little web series.
Definitely. I agree. I think it's a great start to the beginning of our collaboration. I think we can definitely help open up some of the conversations that young people generally don't have about finances. So
Yeah,
I think it's a
exactly.
really good start.
Yeah. I thought I might kick off with something that I had on my mind. I know we said we'd perhaps focus on money and relationships, which is a bit of a hot topic. So I like that we've just taken that subject, topic, and are going to dive right in. Something I've been thinking about a lot, and as I've sort of dated over the years, and spoken to other friends, it's when you're sort of actively thinking about your budgeting, your personal finances, and maybe you start dating or you're in a relationship that's quite new and you still want to go out a lot. Like, how do you navigate that? And at what point do you have that conversation with, the person you're dating? Like, hey, I don't want to spend more than £90 this month on dinners. How is, gauging how that will be received? I find that quite an interesting idea, but I really want people to feel empowered, to mention it. What is your initial
It,
thought?
interesting subject. I mean, I can't say I've dated. I mean, obviously, I've been married for 7 years, although technically you should be dating within marriage anyway. But
That's for another
uh,
web series.
yeah, maybe not for money. That's the relationship
Yeah.
side. But it's strange because I think if I go back to the time when I was dating my wife, and I think it's I'm no relationship expert, so by no means this is just my own opinion, but
Hmm.
I think what is important to set expectations. I think that's really key because you could almost give off this impression if you're going to like all the top fancy dining restaurants where you're courting to sort of seal the deal, should we say, and then that's not a representation or reflection of your actual circumstances, then you're setting yourself up for a fail. And I think vice versa at the same time, no offense to anyone that likes fast food. I mean, I enjoy it as well sometimes myself, but if every one of your dates is at McDonald's or,
Yeah.
Burger King or whatever, then it's a bit of a sign of the times to come. So
Yes.
yeah,
I
probably
feel
at
like we
that
could
point.
do a whole relationship series,
I
actually.
think maybe let's save this for another day. It's quite fun. Probably share some stories on this as well. But I think
Absolutely.
it's probably about getting that right balance. And if it was down to if I sort of describe my own experience, yeah, it was like a combination of like average restaurant, your kind of high street, ZZ's, a Pizza Express, and then maybe once in a while we'll go to like the Oxo or a very nice
Hmm.
top restaurant. And I think I'm not to say you stop doing this once you're married or whatever, but I just think as your life evolves, your priorities do as well from a financial perspective. And then you look
Hmm.
at things a bit maturely and you think,
Yeah.
was it sensible to spend £250 on the dinner for
Well,
the two of us?
exactly.
Or would it have been better off if we just ordered a pizza, for example, spent £20
Hmm.
and had £230 that goes into savings or whatever, that hopefully if we need it, if we're going to go on holiday or if we're just building up an emergency fund,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just think as you progress, and I think also it's down to the level of your relationship as well. So I think the
Hmm.
more your relationship progresses, I think you start becoming
The
a
cheaper
bit
the
more
dates
comfortable.
can get.
Exactly, yeah, and I guess it's down to maybe a bit of
Yeah.
rapport, isn't it? Really, how sooner you
Yeah.
build that rapport, the sooner you could say, "Hey,
Yeah.
let's sack this off. Let's go to Nando's every week." Not that Nando's is cheap anymore, but
No,
you
it's.
know,
I think I remember the days when you could get a meal there for £7. It is now definitely around £10 to £12, which I know
yeah,
is still quite cheap. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's really important to, as a female, male, or whoever, if you're going out and wanting to date and you meet somebody and actually you've just sat down and done your budget, and you're saving either for a deposit or for your emergency fund, or you are repaying debt and you really want to stick to your budget.
yeah,
I really think it's important that you feel no shame in
definitely.
mentioning to the person, maybe not when you're texting them or when you meet them on a dating website or when you first meet them, but at some point saying, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm really, thinking about my financial future. And within that, I'm happy for us to meet for a coffee in the park, or, you know, I'll bring us a picnic, or, you know, I really think that should be okay. And the person with the right mindset will really understand. And I think it's actually another great way to filter out the people perhaps who aren't going to be suitable for you.
100%. And look, you know, I sort of bring it back to like the art of conversation, and you said, you know, finding the right moment. You sort of pick the moments as well. And I know I used to hear stories often from female friends that would turn around and be like, I've just dated this guy, or similarly from friends that would turn around and say, I've been dating this girl or whatever. And it would often be like, well, she asked me how much I earned straight away, and I was like, but is that relevant straight away? You know, fine,
No,
it will become relevant at some point, but she, you know, that question, that was, is that a deal breaker? You know, is that something that should define whether your relationship proceeds? Completely no. But similarly, you know, I remember there were dates when, again, I think we could do a completely different video this, but I remember there were dates where I remember I went on one date and there was a girl said to me like, look, I'm a very independent woman, I need no support from a man, and I don't want you to pay for anything. I was like, cool, like, can we just have a conversation? Yeah, I was like, fine, yeah. And that's an interesting topic as well. You know, should the man always pay? Should the girl? You know, I've got my own view on that, but I think there's certain ways to go about doing it. And I remember, and I'm not to say I sort of use this as the template, but you know, whenever I have a meeting with a client, similar to, I'm sure when you have meetings with your clients, I set out an agenda from the beginning. So I'm like, the meeting's going to last a couple of hours. This is what we'll go through, and we'll probably cover X, Y, and Z. And I think in a way, it's important to do that as well when it comes to like money or relationships or dating, even, because, you know, if you turn around and you agree on it from the beginning, for example, and you just say, look, it might be your first date or second date, look, I'm happy to get this. Let's not argue about it at the end of it.
About it.
I'm happy to do this initially, and you know, the other party might say, yeah, okay, fine, I'll be, or they might say, no, I'm not comfortable with this, I'd rather get it. But you much rather get that out of the way in the beginning and resolve those objections, and then you can allow your conversation to flow. Whereas I'm sure it happens very often when you get to the end of it, and then it becomes awkward. No, I'll pay for
bill tussle.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Usually when the other party is so quick to pay for it, usually means they probably never want to see you again. So like, right, I'll get this. See you later.
Bye. Yeah. No, it's an interesting one. You know, I'd be interested to hear also what your sort of views or tips are on, you know, how to maybe manage finance in a long-term relationship, marriage. But yeah, I think it's really important, and I actually shared a story. I saw something about, you know, money dating. So going on a money date with your partner, whoever it is, you know, maybe that's more relevant when you're actually living together. I think it can also be if you're dating and perhaps you're thinking more seriously about your relationship and where it's going to go, that maybe you meet and actually just talk about, okay, we are thinking of living together, you know, what should that look like? Let's really dedicate this hour to talk about this, you know, set expectations, you know, talk about budgets, how much can each person afford to rent. I think it's really important to have a solid conversation and sit down, you know, instead of just waiting until the last moment or guessing, or, you know.
I know, 100%. And I think, you know, if you don't have these, you know, money conversations, money dates, whatever, all you're doing is setting yourself up for a fail. So the longer you let these things slide, because let's be honest, it is probably one of the most awkward conversations you will have in a relationship, because there's something about finances that people feel so almost quite offended by. And, you know, conversations like, how much do you earn? Oh, I didn't realize you spent this amount. Look, these are really, really uncomfortable conversations, but unfortunately they are a necessary conversation. They have to happen. They have to happen. And look, you know, if you can't overcome these things in a relationship regarding finance, then, you know, what hope have you got to have with all the other problems that come in along the way? So I think they're awkward conversations. I think they do need to happen, and I think ideally the sooner the better. But I just think, you know, in order for, because, you know, in a marriage, in a long-term relationship, whatever, even in a relationship, you are a partnership, so you work on things together, and that doesn't always mean a partnership should be 50-50. It just means that you're working together and you've got to find ways to work together. And I always sort of give this example as like, you know, one of you might not be working, or for whatever reason, you know, you're out of a job, you're in between jobs, or, you know, you've gone and had a baby or whatever. That doesn't mean that that partnership just carries on, you've got to keep making these adjustments, you know, as you said, money dating, but you've got to keep making changes to your personal finances with changes to your personal circumstances. So one of you may have a drop in income, great. The other one steps in, contributes a bit more, vice versa. And I think that's how you keep things moving.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really important to keep talking about these things, and I think it can also, if the earlier you have these conversations, and I'm not sure of the complete statistics, I probably should have come prepared, but I think a lot of couples cite as one of their main reasons for arguing, and I think potentially even divorce, are often money issues, or where debt is a real burden. And that's something I wanted to mention as well, that, you know, I think people feel a real sense of shame around debt. I definitely did, and so I wouldn't want to mention it. There was this feeling of, gosh, if I, you know, meet somebody and we want to plan a future, you know, I've gone and sort of, you know, not really paved the way for that, because I've got myself into debt. Maybe I didn't have the savings I wanted, and then I always felt quite insecure. But I think it's really important to realize that just because somebody has debt, it doesn't mean they're irresponsible with money. So I think it's good to have that conversation, to be open with each other, but at the same time, it's also a private matter. So if you don't want to share immediately, I don't think you should feel like you have to. So it's a tricky one, but I'm on a bit of a crusade to empower people to say it's okay to talk about money and debt. It should not be as awkward as we think.
No, definitely. And I think the one word I'm going to mention that sort of should help to have these awkward conversations, the T word, trust. And that's down to what level of trust you have with your partner in order to feel comfortable opening. And look, it's not just, again, we could make this into like a soap drama. But
let's stick to the budgets.
But you know, it's trust is, you know, you may have some sort of health condition that could affect your ability, you know, could make you quite sick or whatever. But that's something at what stage do you speak to your partner about? But it is relevant, and they do need to know about it, because if you then fall and have a, you know, epilepsy, you know, a seizure, for example, because of this underlying health condition, then your partner does know. And it's similar with money, with debts, because I think what makes things then more difficult, and I think a lot of people then have these conversations, is where, you know, they say, I think that saying is, when it comes to the crunch. So let's say, you know, you both decide to apply for a mortgage and you're getting really excited and you're both emotionally so involved in this whole process. You found your dream house, definitely want it, you know, all the talk is being spoken at that time, and it's like, right, let's do it, let's go and apply for the mortgage. And it comes back and the bank says, very sorry, one of you has got bad credit, we're not prepared to lend. And that's just a massive downer, isn't it? That's a massive down, because I think you need to manage expectations. And if you're not in that, let's be fair, if you're not in that position, then have that conversation with your partner. Let's say, look, you know, my credit score's bad, or your credit score's bad. What can we do to improve?
Let's work on it together, or let's support each other through this. Exactly. I don't think it's a deal breaker.
It's not a deal breaker. It's absolutely no deal breaker. You know, one of you may be good at something, one of you may not be. But that's the whole point of a relationship, a partnership. You work on things together. So look, one of you may have good credit, one of you may not. Let's work on it, because ultimately, if you continue on the same sort of trajectory, you're still going to lose out. One of you will still be up there with good credit. One of you may be down there. But ultimately, you both lose out, because if you find that dream home or whatever it is, then you're not in that position to sort of go through and follow it through, which you know, those are the conversations in many ways that could lead to these big bust ups and breakups, etc. But
so, no, I know, I agree.
Have the awkward conversations.
Yeah, I mean,
and when you've got more of a chance of influencing, as opposed to right at the last minute, because then it's difficult.
Be prepared. And this is why I would always say, whether you're married, dating, or single, you know, create a budget. You know, if you see this video today, let that be a bit of an inspiration. Sit down, have a look at what is your financial situation. Where are you currently at? You know, I know it can take a lot of courage, but be brave. Maybe you have debts, list them out, you know, look at what pension pots you've got, you know, have you thought about your retirement, and really empower yourself. Because, you know, I remember when I sat down and did all of that, I actually felt empowered, even if maybe my net worth figure wasn't quite what I'd hoped, or I somehow secretly think isn't as much as my peers, I felt empowered because I knew what I was working with and I know my budget. So I really think it's a huge confidence booster. It helped tremendously with my mental health. And then you know what you're working with. So if there's something I would say for people to take away from this is, no matter where you are, do a budget. Think about it. How much can you
100%.
afford?
And I've said this many times in my videos before, budgeting, that's the framework, the focal point of any financial planning. Before you can do any saving or investing or life insurance or whatever it is, you need to know what's coming in, what's going out, what's spare, what's disposable, what can you make changes to if the worst is the worst. And you've got to continue going with that. And that budget will evolve and change on time. But those people that try to operate their lives without budgets, it makes me really nervous personally. It just makes me feel, you're then very reactive. There's no sort of forward strategy.
No, I agree. Maybe as a bit of a teaser, what we could do is next time we could maybe talk about how we each of us budget and how that looks, and give some inspirational sort of, well, I say inspirational, I hope we can inspire, just doing a basic budget for those who don't do one yet. So maybe that's a good tip for next time.
Definitely. We just have to open up conversations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Feel more comfortable with it.
Right.
Well, okay. Well, I think in fact one question I wanted to ask you, because again, it's always interested, and I'm always interested to hear from the female's point of view. But dating on a budget, I wanted to ask: so, should a man always pay?
No, I don't think so. I think it's individual. I have to be honest. I do like to be treated to a meal. I just feel it makes me feel like I'm worth the the time and the sort of investment, and that this person wants to do something nice for me. But I would say that I would probably then offer, well, let me get dessert, or can I buy you a drink at the next bar, or why don't I pay next time? I think it just shows like a care towards each other, that you want to treat each other. But again, I also try and get a sense from the gentleman, does he want to treat me? I have to admit though, if he doesn't want to, I'm probably inclined to worry a little bit what that means for our personal finance life together.
A bit of good old-fashioned chivalry.
I'm a bit traditional in that sense, but I think whatever works for you.
Which is nice to know. And as I said, it's very often about just knowing what works for you, as we said. It's about understanding your own dynamics, what work. But that's really good. I think we could make like a whole really long series on this, actually, because there's lots of juicy questions. But if people do have questions, honestly,
let us know.
Please make some, write in the comments any awkward things. I think we should probably continue this series actually and talk more on the relationship side of
sounds
things.
Great.
But no, let's leave that for today. And no, good catching up with you as always, Neelam. And
same with you, Walid. And I like how we don't even have to prepare or rehearse for this. I love that the conversation just flows, and it's really interesting and definitely given me food for thought. But yeah, tune in next time if you want to find out more about budgets and how we do that, and hopefully you can take some tips and tricks away from that.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.